forward, as I mentioned, this would be probably the last learning webinar for us. So I would try to make this a more interesting one. And I would also be doing some fact checks today as well. So I would ask a few questions and I would not only try to explain it myself, I would also want to understand how we know the product and how we know InsuredMine, the way InsuredMine, as CSMs, we know it, right? So from our client side, we would also want to understand how you are utilizing it. Some functionalities, either are you aware of it? If not, I would definitely talk about it as well. Right. So for today's discussion, I have pipeline automations with labels, right? So label again is something you're all aware of that we utilize back in the pipelines. So we would also want to understand by what exactly labels is, right? So that is where I have my agenda, and that is where I start off with is what exactly label is. And we would talk a bit about how label is different with tags in InsuredMine. After that, I would walk you through how you can create labels in InsuredMine and how you can utilize them as well. Once we talk about that, I would do some fact checks there, as I mentioned. Then I'll show you how you can automate your labels and you can create some automations out of it as well. By the end of wrap up today, I have some exciting news as well. So I would want everyone to stay back a bit. We would have the Q&As, but then I would also give you an exciting news that I believe would be excited for everyone, right? Having said that, let's just move forward and first try to understand what exactly label is, right? So again, label in InsuredMine acts as a unique identifier, right? And it can be assigned to deal cards, and you can again organize or categorize your deal cards based on your needs, and that is where labels come into place as well. Again, you can track and identify the most valuable leads, and you can assign labels onto them, right? So that becomes the nutshell about what label is, right? But you also have an opportunity on tags. So a lot of you might know that tags is something that we utilize back in our accounts and contacts module. So you can assign tags back on contacts as well as back in accounts as well, right? So there are certain similarities and there are certain differences as well in terms of labels and in terms of tags. So again, tags, as I mentioned, would be specifically present back in your account and the contact module in InsuredMine. Labels, on the other hand, you would be able to utilize it on the pipeline level, right? When we talk about automations on both of them, tags, again, you can use it as a contact trigger in terms of contact automation. So you would have a trigger point which you can choose as a tag and utilize it to automate your contacts there. Side by side, when you utilize labels, you can create labels in the platform and then use label automations there. So that's a nutshell about what exactly is the label in the platform, as well as what is a tag in the platform as well. Any questions, any thoughts on the label? Because I would then move ahead and try to get you back to our demo account, and we would try to understand how exactly we utilize labels and create labels in the platform. Before I do so, any questions, any thoughts? No questions yet. So I'll quickly share my screen again and I try to log in to my demo portal. I think we have a question. Yes, so Damon is asking both labels and tags can trigger automation. Yes, they can. So again, tags would be triggered through contact automation. So that would be the trigger point for your tags that would only function back in your contacts. And for labels, you can again utilize label automation, and labels would be functioning the automations back in pipeline. So I'll showcase that to you there as well. Perfect. Let me quickly log in. I hope my demo screen is visible to everyone right now. Quickly then move to pipelines. Perfect. Thank you, Damon. Perfect. So here we are in terms of pipelines, and we would try to understand how exactly we can create a label in InsuredMine, right? The first thing that you would do, and you would have to know where exactly you need to go to create a label in pipelines. So you would find this clock wheel, which is the board settings right over here on the top right hand side corner of your screen. This is where you can click and you would find you can navigate to labels. This is where you would be able to see all the existing labels that you have at this moment, and you can create your new labels over here as well, right? So in here, you would also find for some existing labels, you have the edit, share, and delete button. There would be some labels which does not give you that opportunity to delete it. So you do not have the delete functionality available for all the labels. The ones that you create, you do have that, but there are few specific labels that you do not get the capability to delete it, edit it. Do we know which are those labels? So that would be my first question to you. Do we know which are those labels? And I would want participations in the chat as well. So anyone who has an fair enough of idea just can post it in the chat, and then I can let you know as well. So a quick minute to you. Again, any thoughts, any idea? So again, my question in here, Jim, would be all these labels that you see at this moment in my screen. Out of them, which one I cannot do it? Demon mentions that the first three, okay, agency bill, cancel, direct bill, any other that I cannot delete in the system. Perfect. That's a good observation, Jim. Yes, they do not. Great. So I'll just mention why exactly we cannot delete. So again, Demon, you guessed the first three, right? And agency bill, cancel, direct bill, you cannot delete. So you would see when you're trying to delete it, it gives you a pop-up which says label is created by system. Please contact support, right? So this three, the first three, you would find these are all system generated labels in the system. So you do not have the capability to edit it. You do not have the capability to delete it as well, but you can share them. So agency bill, as rightly mentioned by Demon, that the first three cannot be deleted. There are furthermore as well. So you would find reinstated, you would also find renewed, and as well as you would also find rewritten to be the rest three. So there are six that you actually cannot delete, and this is created by the system. So that was one thing. And another thing that Jim mentioned was the checkboxes, right? So in here, that's a good observation again, Jim. So in here for these three, you would find there are no checkboxes. The ones that you actually create, you would still get the checkbox for it. I would let you know why that scenario exists, right? Perfect. So these three again, you see, you do not get those checklists right over here, but the rest you would still get it. So let's also check when we are trying to create a new label, we can simply click on create a new label. We would mention what type of a label we are trying to create. Let's say, for example, document pending, just top of my mind. Document pending is the label I want to create. You would have to be fancy in terms of colors. You'd have to choose one and you select a color and click on create. Once you do so, you would find the label that you created would be present right over here. And you would be able to utilize the edit button to re-edit it. You'd be able to use the share button to share it, as well as you can delete the one that you're creating. That's a possibility over here. I think we have a few questions back in the chat, so let me take them. Can you show how to get to the labels again? Sure, Lando, I would do it. I am unable to locate where to go for the labels. Perfect. So let me take you back again. So back in pipelines, when you land on the pipeline module, so this would be your pipeline page, right? So in here, you would find just below your profile picture, you would have the three dots, which is the action three dots. Beside that, you would have the cogwheel, which we name as board settings. So you can simply click on board settings. Once you click on board settings, you would then be able to navigate to the label option right over here under the board settings. Jillian says that I don't have the settings option. So Jillian, probably you are an agent in the platform. That again gives you that opportunity. You do not have option of the cogwheel. If you are an agent or a CSR, you might not have that capability there. So this is applicable for the admins. And if they give you that access to create the labels, you would have it. Perfect. So again, coming back to what Jim mentioned, that they do not have the check boxes, right? So why exactly these check boxes? And why not existing this check boxes for these six options in terms of labels? These options do not have a checkbox because if you select these checkboxes, you would find a small option gets populated, which is the merge option. So I would also want to ask how many of you knew that there is a merge option in terms of labels back in the pipeline. So again, this question would be for those admins who have been creating the labels, utilizing labels, but did we click on those checkboxes and check the merge option would be my question. It's a yes or no answer though. Got it. Perfect. Yes. So again, in here you would always find an InsuredMine. There are always small pieces here and there. And if you are clicking around, you would find those options there available as well. Now, when I mention merge option, right? So one question should pop up when I'm merging these two. Why exactly should I merge a label? Probably you might merge a label if there is a duplicate. Can be one of those scenarios. So if you find that there is some that has been duplicate in the platform, you can always come back over here and choose which you want to merge it. So for example, I have document pending. I create another one. So again, another admin can create another label, which is document pending or info pending. Let's take that as a label. And if these two labels serve the same purpose for me, I would then want to merge them, right? So let me check. So I have info pending now, and I will select info pending as well as document pending. And now when I'm merging it, you would find it gives you two options, information pending and document pending. And the system would ask which one you would want to keep as a master. That basically means this would have the visibility. If you select info pending as the master, this would have the visibility and the other one would be merged with information pending. So that's an opportunity there, right? Perfect. So here we are, and we know now how to create the labels, how to merge those labels. As well, there is one more thing that you should be aware of in here is the share button, right? So you're creating a label right over here. If you would want to share this, now when I talk about sharing, you're not sharing with agents, you're sharing within pipelines. So if you have multiple pipelines, but you still want to utilize the same label and you might want to use the same label back in other pipelines, from here you get the opportunity to select all pipelines and you can simply click on update and it automatically adds the specific label back on the other pipelines as well. Did we also know that? Perfect. I think Alan has a question. When merging, do both labels appear on the deal card? I would show that to you, Alan. So that would be another question for me. But then, of course, I would show that to you when I show how you assign a label back on the deal card. Should add select all button. Select all. So my thought is you are mentioning that select all from here. So again, if you do not want to select all, you can simply select the ones that you would want to share this label with in the pipeline, and then you can do that as well. But you also have the select all and clear all as an option too. On the previous screen is what he mentions. So on the previous screen, is that this option you're mentioning in terms of I select the checkboxes in here and merge it? Is that the question, Jim? Yeah, so if you select all, that would not give you that opportunity. So got your question now. So if the question basically is, if I select all right over here and I select one share option from here, does it select all the label and share them? The answer is no, it won't. It would only function for this specific label. That's the reason this share button is applicable just right beside it. Perfect. Now let's come back to understand how exactly we can add a label, right, in the deal cards. So let's quickly come back on the pipeline and we will try to understand how we can add labels on the deal card. So I'll quickly try to add the label in here itself. So say for example, this is one of my leads that I want to add a label to. And in here, you have two opportunities by which you can add the label. One would be the quick view. You can simply click on add label on the quick view option and you would get all the labels that you have created for yourself and you can add that label on the deal card. So say for example, I select unresponsive for 3 days and I do a save and I do a save again. You would find that to be present right on the top of it. So unresponsive for 3 days is the label that got attached on the deal card over here. Now, the other way to do it is if you're already working inside the deal card, so you're present inside the deal card, you can simply scroll on the left hand side. You would have the label option right on the left and you can simply click on add label. This would also bring in all the labels that you have and you can simply select the other one that you would want to add. So say for example, information pending and I save it. You would see now that you have both labels added on the same deal card. So you can add multiple deal cards as well on the same deal card. So these are two ways, one with the quick view. So anywhere on the deal card, you can simply click and it would be a left click, of course. And this quick view pop-up would come in and you can simply add the label from the add label option right over here as well. Do we have any questions? How did you bring up the quick view? Double click on the box. No, so it would be a single click, a single left click, and you would be able to achieve that. Perfect. The other question that I found back in a few minutes ago was if I merge the tags, what would be the visibility? Right. So say for example, I've added unresponsive for 3 days as well as information pending in here. Let me add another one for this one. Got a better deal and I would want information pending. Save and save. So now I have two labels in two deal cards. This one is unresponsive for 3 days and information pending. This one has got a better deal as well as information pending, right? And my thought is I would be merging unresponsive for 3 days and information pending. And then you see this shows information pending right over here. But I would want to keep my master as unresponsive for 3 days. So let's see how exactly the visibility would be when I do so. So I go back to labels. I select unresponsive for 3 days and information pending. I merge it and I want unresponsive for 3 days to be my master and I merge it. It would give you a pop-up. Are you sure you want to merge the labels? Of course I am. Once I do so, it would merge the label successfully. Now we come back to pipelines. We refresh this once. And now you would see magically this label, the first label got removed. And now you just have unresponsive for 3 days. And in here as well, you have unresponsive for 3 days. Back in the initial phase, we had information pending, right? So that is how you can utilize the label merging capability as well. Any questions till now in terms of the labels? Perfect. If not, I have a next question for you. So when we are merging those labels and we are assigning those labels, how many of you are aware of if we move the deal card from one pipeline to another, will the label still stay? Plus, if we do the copy movement, will the label still stay or not? So my question would be if we are moving or we are copying the card from one stage or one pipeline to another. So let's take pipeline itself. So we are moving the card from one pipeline to another. My question is, will the labels stay or not? It would remove itself. Alan says yes. Marcus says yes, they stay. Jim says yes, they stay. Devin agrees to it. Perfect. Yes. So the answer, of course, as everyone mentioned, it does stay. But there's one catch as well, right? That is what I would want to show you. Say, for example, we have unresponsive for 3 days in this commercial pipeline, right? But if I go to life and health, and then I want to check what labels do I have for life and health, I do not have that same label, right? If I move the deal card from, let me come back. So this is unresponsive for 3 days, and this is unresponsive for 3 days as well as got a better deal, right? So what my ask is right now, or what I am trying to showcase you right now is I'm trying to move this card. Let's take this as an example. I'm trying to just move this card. So I simply want to move this card to a different pipeline, which would be life and health. Both would be shared, that's fine, and the stage can be in lead in. I do not want to start any automation. Can stop running automation if there is any, and I simply update it. Now, the card did move to life and health, and it is in the shared board as well, right? Let me refresh that. We got a better deal as well as we have unresponsive for 3 days as well in here. Now, these two labels were not added back in my labels under both settings, right? So my question is, do you think that that specific label that got added right over here in that deal card and the card moved to this pipeline, would it automatically add in right over here? That would be my question. That's my question. So these two labels were not added, right, in this pipeline. Initially, we saw that these two labels are not a part of this pipeline. I simply moved the card and the card got present right over here. The card got moved and the labels are visible right over here. But then these two labels were not part of my pipeline. So should it get added back in the list of labels that I have? Jim says no. Demon says yes, it will. Okay. Any other guesses? Any other thoughts? Door number three. Perfect. Let's just come back over here in the labels and try to check. It basically would, right? It is just not visible at this moment, probably just because it's a demo account. That's the reason. Let me refresh it. It basically would. If you're moving the card and the label is present and the system identifies it to be a new label, it would actually add the label right over here. So you see, got a better deal, came down right over here. So it's a possibility, and unresponsive for 3 days also got added. So it's just a refresh, and you would find those labels to be shared with this pipeline as well. So that was the other question. Perfect. Then you were right there. Why not just add our labels to all pipelines by default? Yes, of course you can do that. So that's a possibility. So you can always share those labels back to all the pipelines that you have. But I just wanted to show you on one scenario. Perfect. The merge box will appear when we have the check label correct. Yes, it would. I mean, instead of forcing me to share, uh, just automatically, just share automatically. So again, the thought over here in terms of labels, I understood your question, Jim, there. So the thought over here is probably whatever label you utilize in life and health might not be the same labels you would want to use in terms of renewals, might not be the same labels that you would want to use under service pipeline or the internal management, right? So you have different pipelines which say serves different purposes for us. So in those cases, the thought is you would have different set of labels which would function different way and act as a different identifier. That's the reason you do not get to share directly when you create one. I hope that answers. Perfect. The next thing that we would now want to look into is automations, right? So now let's quickly check our automation capability. So I am in health and life and health. Let's check the automation capability in terms of labels. So you would find there are two ways to add a label automation under pipeline, and we will discuss both. The first option you would find right over here on the left hand side when you come back to automation. Excuse me. So when you come back to this three dot action three dot and you go to automations, you would then find the list of automations in terms of stages. What is the sign? When you scroll down further, you would find there are three other options, which is deal action, deal health, and add label. When you click on add new, in here, you can create your label automation and it would be a specific label automation itself. So you're creating a different set of automation in terms of that label. I'll just quickly explain. So say for example, document pending is my label and I just want to trigger an email to a client mentioning doc pending. Just two words, assigned agent, type in a subject line, doc pending. Right. I want this to be triggered, let's say after 2 days. The recipient is contact, that's fine. And then I save it. So now you can see the label got attached and it also has an automation now. And this is a different set of automation that gets added in terms of label. Now, how this would be helpful for us and why should we add labels as an identifier and create an automation out of it? The reason being, let's suppose this was my uh, document pending stage or a different stage altogether. And I've moved this client, but I still require some documents out of them. So let's say, for example, Peter itself has not shared all the documents with me. And I want to send a communication as an automation to Peter mentioning that your doc is pending. But in this particular stage, which is in the lead in stage, he has different set of communications going out in terms of automation. Without disrupting those automations, I would simply add the label, which would be doc pending, right? And then I simply save it. Once I save it, whatever automation, so you can see if I save it as well, so you can see it automatically attaches that automation in here. And now it shows that alongside this stage automation, this would also be running. So this would be the additional automation that would run only for Peter and not for any other deal card that I have in this particular stage. So that would be the uniqueness of that label and the automation there. Any questions till now? Perfect. Then we look into what is the other way to add the label automation. Now we saw one opportunity where we can add a label automation, create a different set of automations, and then assign that same label back on the deal card. But we can utilize the same stage to create a label automation as well. How do we do that? So in here, when I'm in the lead in stage, I can simply click on add new automation. in here you would find you get a label filter right over here. And you can select from the label filter whichever you would want to go by. And the moment, let's say, for example, I select unresponsive for 3 days, right? If I select unresponsive for 3 days and I then want to add a checklist, so say, for example, proposal checklist, and I would want to save it. So in the lead in stage, you would find it got added, right? Yeah, checklist. So this proposal checklist would work when or would get sent, get added in the deal card if the checklist would get added if this label is available, right? So when you create a deal card in this stage, let me show that to you. If I create a deal card and I create, let's say Kunal itself, Kunal test can work. And then I would also have to select the label, which is unresponsive for 3 days, because that is how my automation would check the label and automatically trigger this. And I simply click on save over here. Once I do so, you would then see all the automations would give me a pop-up that if I want to run it or not, I simply click on apply. I would then get inside the deal card under automations, let it refresh a bit. Under automations, everything would actually function. In this case, this checklist would also be populated when it is the next day, which is 12/12, right? Because I added 1 day. But this would automatically be imported right over here as my question, is my thought there, because I have already added this label. If I did not add that label while I was creating that deal card, this checklist will never populate in this particular stage. Any thoughts, any questions there? Because you have one opportunity where you can create the label as a separate entity itself, and you can assign that label back in the deal cards, and then these set of automations will trigger. But there is another opportunity where you can actually assign the label in the stage automation itself, and then the system would identify if you have already added the label while creating the deal card, or if the label is already present and you're moving the deal card and the stage automation has that capability, it would also send out or add in the checklist for you in terms of that label. So we need to create our label. So Jillian has a question there. So we need to create our label list before setting up our automations. You can, if you would want to add label automations in the pipeline, you would then need to create those labels and create those identifiers there. If not, you can simply create your stage automations and it would be universal. So it would be universal for universally applied for all these deal cards if you do not have a label automation. But if you have a label automation, the system would check and create it as a unique identifier there. I hope that answers the question. Perfect. Yes, Darren. So this is being recorded and I would be sharing the recording with you there as well. Perfect. And you can look through it. If you always have questions, you can reach out to your CSM and anyone in InsuredMine would help you there. Perfect. So this was the capability in terms of automation and how you would be able to utilize label automations either as a single entity on the label or in the stage itself. Any questions, any thoughts on the label? Thank you, Aaron. I try to share my knowledge as much as possible. Perfect. So again, mentioning, so this was more or less, again, about label creation in the pipeline, how you can utilize label the best possible way, and how you can automate that process as well, right? So this was more on the learning phase. I also mentioned that we do have an exciting news to share with all of you, right? So I'll quickly stop sharing and try to reshare my screen. just to share that news with you as well. Just give me one quick minute. Perfect. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to post that in the chat and I will take that up. Can you add a new label name from the deal card? If you do that, can you add a new label name from the deal card? If you do it gets added to the list. And from the deal card, no. So from the deal card, you can only select the list of labels that you have already created. How can I add a stage to the pipeline? Creating a stage in the pipeline. Okay, let me quickly take you back again then. Mm. So as an admin, when you're trying to create a stage in here, let's say, for example, in the life and health itself, I hope my screen is visible. I just started off. So yes, so when you are in the pipeline and you're trying to add a stage, you can simply click on edit pipeline in here. And then the first opportunity is updating the pipeline. Then you would have the opportunity to add a stage. So let's say I want to add a stage. I can simply click on add. It would automatically give me that option to add a stage further, just giving it a test name. And now you can realign this as well. So if I want this to be on top, I can simply scroll this through from the 6 dots. And then if I have this aligned as per my requirement, I simply click on update and continue till the last step. And here we would have, after the refresh, our test stage. So here we have the test stage added. Who is joining in new, who is new to InsuredMine and is just looking through these webinars, you also get that InsuredMine Academy capability where you can do certification courses. You would have your agent certification or you are doing the admin certification where you know what your role is and what all functionalities that you find in InsuredMine. So that gives you a head start and to give you also the capability to understand the platform better before you jump into discussions with your CSMs and those training meetings that you have. Perfect. Again, we also have that upcoming webinar for next week. You can again scan through the screen, but it would also be shared over an email as well, and you would be able to register for it. Plus, you would have that pop-up when you log into InsuredMine too. So all these capabilities, and we would want you to participate next week as well. And we would have that discussion with all the CSMs being on the panel. Having said that, I will thank you everyone to join in for the webinar today. I hope this was informative and it was helpful as well. We had a lovely session today. We had a lot of discussions. I also got to know a lot of people, a lot of you know a lot of stuffs in the platform. So that is something that excites me as well, right? So the learning is always should be there, and it also helps us to grow on the platform as well, right? Having said that, I would let you go for the day because I have sent a lot of things. I've discussed a lot of stuff, and I wish you have a good rest of the day as well. Jim asked the last question. How do we see the old webinars? Again, the old webinars are available on the website as well. So again, I can ask your CSM to drop an email and just add the link for you so that you can navigate and check those old webinars that we have conducted. Thank you everyone for joining in today. It was a pleasure connecting with you and having those discussions, and wish you a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.